to bring it back to my fandom of In Flames and where it all started. You know, at first it was Clayman, then I went back to Colony, Jester Race, Oracle. Those are like those were like my I guess screaming metal Bible in high school, you know. And I would go out and see you guys any chance that I got. I saw you at least twice at the Pomona Glass House
Oh yeah, yeah,
in
yeah. We played that
California.
many times when you
And yeah, you have.
back
And
then.
I want to say I don't want to over exaggerate and say that it was at least, you know, four times, but I know it was at least two. Sometimes somewhere between two and five. I've seen
Yeah,
you guys. And it's all blurred now because we're talking about, you know, 20 plus years ago. Um, but there are some things that definitely stick out. I think the first time Earth Crisis was headlining, and you guys
yeah, yeah,
were
yeah,
one of the bands on it. And I wanted
yeah,
to see if you remember, if my memory was right, or if you would even remember. This is back when you had the dreads,
yeah.
and I remember the crowd being a little hostile, and
Oh fuck
someone
yeah, yeah.
then grabbed your dreads. Do you remember this at the Pomona Glass
Uh,
House? Someone grabbing your dreadlocks when you were headbanging, and
I don't remember that specific moment.
yeah,
But yeah, that was a tough crowd. But we knew getting into that it was be tough, especially tough. I remember Salt Lake City. We played there.
mm,
We had our metal guys come with their leather jackets, and you have all these super straight edge coming in. They were looking at the metal guys, being like, "Oh, there's a fight happening right here," you know. And it
oh
was
yeah,
rough, 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 rough. But you know, it was. I think you know that was the you had the hardcore and the melodic, and then I don't know if that turned started some sort of style or whatever. But it was a cool blend that hit the stage at that point, and. They were cool guys, really good guys. I'm happy they took us out, you know. And that's
yeah,
something I think being that we don't really say no to anything, even though it might be quite different here and there. We
mm,
just play. Let's do it. See what happens. Because you can always, I mean, if you always play for converted, you never grow, right? So you have to get out there and play in front of other bands' audience as well.
right. No, and that's always been the thing, though, right? I mean, we know that too from that was how you got in front of different audiences. Now, again, nowadays and age, a day and age where you could just put things out on social media or whatever, and you find people a different way. But back then, you know, you played shows with other bands that were maybe not exactly like you, and
Yeah.
you sought those tours out, you know, at those times. And I bring all this up again, loving those live shows. You guys always sounded amazing to me at the Glass House. Like it was like whatever reason, like that, it sounded incredible. I brought up the Earth Crisis thing, and I'm glad you brought up being on that tour. And that timing was like the early 2000s. Uh, you almost said it. Like the media started calling it metalcore after that when everything started to meld together. But
I'm not saying that is us or so, but
no, of course, no.
it was pretty early on when it was the mix between like because it felt like it was either or, you know, like you were a
Yes,
hardcore band and you were touring with hardcore bands, so you were metal bands, so you were touring with metal bands. There was like
right. There was no
it's like
crossover,
the no,
and
it
they were
was like the
butting
old
heads. And
days with
like to your
synths.
point,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like the old days of synths and heavy metal. It was like
Hmm.
nothing in between. Boom, and this was all of a sudden like it worked. It worked. I mean, not for everyone, but
Yeah,
it started something. People go like, "Oh, hey, there's something here." So
yeah. No, I mean it did for me too. It sparked like so much because I was listening. The hardcore scene was massive in Orange County. Like that was
yeah,
it
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah. I
was.
remember. Yeah,
Yeah, and other places like Salt Lake City. And it was fun, you know. I remember like this was in high school for me too. So like I was very much in that, you know, when we were all in our teen years and we like pick our genre and that's like how you identify, right? So I
yeah,
was
yeah,
very
yeah,
much into that. And I was always the metal guy and I was like, ah, fuck hardcore, you know? And then I came around to hardcore. It was like, and then everything came together. But I just want to like paint the picture for some of the listeners and what viewers at home who maybe don't know the history of how that came to be. Like you're talking about, you'd go to these shows where bands like yourself would go out with an Earth Crisis, and the crowds were fighting each other a lot of the times,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
screaming at the fucking different bands. It was, it was a real scene, man. It was and it was going all over I mean, at least in the U.S. I don't know how it was
Mm.
in Europe, but at
We
least in the
still,
U.S., like it was all over.
yeah. I mean, I think I mean, it was very metal in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like more so than I think it was in the States. But
Yeah, I think the States were more hardcore, and Europe was a little bit more
yeah,
metal, and that's why I
yeah,
gravitated towards more like you guys,
yeah,
the Soil Works of the world, Children of Bodom, At the Gates.
yeah.
You know, that was more my shit. And but
I think that's
yeah,
why a lot of when our type of music or our type of bands got attention, it seemed like there was tons of these bands, you know. But we've been
hmm
doing it for years
right,
before the media turned and called it whatever they call it,
right,
stuff like that, you know. So, but yeah, I'm fine. Call me whatever. Like
yeah. Oh
it's
no,
all good. Yeah, it's all good. But I think the most what are we talking about here? The most important thing for us is just like I said, not saying no to anything and just fucking go out there and do it, and you learn something from it. If you can't do that, yeah, I think you lost already.
yeah, and I think even for the listener out there can wrap their heads around it too, because it's like you guys went out there to learn something for yourselves, but you're also in a way kind of teaching the fans and the next generation musicians like myself that were coming up and watching and going to these shows and seeing the battle between metal and hardcore, like,
Mhm.
and it's so funny to say now because no one gives a fuck anymore. Like like at that
Yeah,
moment, at those, like, it was only a few years, but those few
yeah,
years, like everyone, it was like it was a debate if you were into hard rock at all, it was always a debate. You know what I mean? Like there was like and it was an angry, heated fucking debate. There's a lot of people who go to the shows just to fuck up
oh yeah,
the fans of another band. And you're like,
yeah.
it's so funny, like in this day and age. It's very fortunate that it's not there anymore. But I gotta say, as influential as your band has been musically to everybody, I want to also point out that you guys going out and playing with these other bands, and I think you taught a lot of listeners a lot of things too, and brought a lot of harmony to a scene in a, you know, I'm not trying to prop you up as the messiahs of fucking music or anything like that to give you too big of a head there, I
I will
guess.
tell all my friends what you said right now and see. That's how I'm gonna live my
Yeah, you are.
life
Yeah,
from here on.
Andrew's the messiah of metal. But no,
No,
but honestly, like there's an element to that, like that I'm saying.
yeah,
There's a lot of truth to that. Like bands like yourself getting out there and melding, because the artists, that bands, we never cared about that stuff, right?
yeah.
It's the fans that kind of created those opposing scenes, right?
I appreciate you saying those fine words, sir. But at the end of the day, you know, when all of this is over,
Yeah.
I'm. It's not an individual song or an album. It's that we actually created something from a small place in this world. Because Gothenburg, or where we were, a little bit outside of Gothenburg, we were like 30 dudes that were doing this, but everybody was jumping in and out of bands, and it was very a healthy little scene that
hmm
we created something that a music that traveled the world. It's what I'm gonna take away. Not being the prophet, not being Anders. Like it's just like that is what I leave behind, which just feels really good.